Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast Special Edition Series, where I preview and predict the 2021-2022 NHL season. I'm going to go through my standing predictions as well as playoff teams, division winners, who wins the Stanley Cup. Then I'll get into awards, and then team superlatives like best rookies, most improved player / breakout star, most disappointing player, Ewing theory, which is where you remove a player from a team, whether it's due to injury or due to the player leaving via free agency or trade or retirement. The team's better without him, which Bill Simmons obviously made up. And then there's obviously make or break players. And then a bold prediction for every team. All right, I'm going to start with the Metropolitan Division, and I'm going to go over my predicted standings. In first place with 108 points, I have the New York Islanders. Islanders made the conference finals the last two seasons, including the bubble year. About a year ago, ironically enough, maybe a little more than that. The goalie tandem still intact with Semyon Varlamov and Ilya Sorokin. I think Sorokin should be the guy going forward, personally. Their defense is very, very deep. Led by Ryan Pulock. Adam Pellick's really good. Noah Dobson's a good player. Their offense, to me, is deeper than it's been in the past, with some nice trade acquisitions over the past couple years and good draft picks. Matt Barzal, Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, Juan Gabriel Pageau, Anders Lee, Anthony Beauvillier, Josh Bailey. This is a good team. And I still think this team is somewhat disrespected in the media and its own city. And Barry Trotz is just a phenomenal hockey coach. In second place in this division, I have with 105 points, the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are a team that I'm high on, but I have some pause when it comes to the goaltending position. I don't like that they got rid of the Nedeljkovic, who was great for them a year ago. They traded him to Detroit, and he's going to be starting in net for Detroit, Alex Nedeljkovic. And Sebastian Aho is a franchise player. So is Andrei Svechnikov. Teuvo Teravainen was one of the better trade pickups in the entire league over the last decade. Vincent Trocheck's a great addition. Jordan Staal still around. Martin Necas is a player that I think may improve. Nino Niederreiter is another great trade pickup. Jesperi Kotkaniemi is a good player. And then on defense, they're pretty deep. Jacob Slavin, Brett Pesky, Brady Shea. They signed Tony DeAngelo after he was cut by the Rangers. Ethan Barry and Cole. They're deep on defense. Very, very deep. And then starting in goal instead of Nedeljkovic will be Frederik Andersen, former Maple Leaf. And then backing him up is Antti Ranta. So their backup isn't bad. And Frederik Andersen's a guy that wins a lot of games, but I don't know if he's a goalie that can win a Stanley Cup, per se. So that's my only concern when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes. And I think Rod Vindemore is a phenomenal hockey coach. Third place in the Metro Division with 101 points, I have the Washington Capitals. There are some folks that think that this team is going to miss the playoffs. I am not one of those people that thinks that. Alex Ovechkin is just somebody that I keep betting on to succeed until he falls off. And as far as I'm concerned, he hasn't fallen off yet, and he carries his team to the postseason year in and year out. I believe he's only missed the playoffs once in his whole life. And that was, I believe, the 13-14 season. He has a lot of good players around him on offense. Nick Backstrom, Tom Wilson, TJ Oshie, Anthony Mantha. That was a good trade pickup last year. A couple ex-Penguins and Connor Sheary. And Carl Hagelin in there. Lars Eller, Nick Dowd's a good player. On defense, they're pretty deep. John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov, Justin Schultz, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, Nick Jensen was a good trade pickup from a depth standpoint. And they have a good goalie tandem, Ilya Samsonov and Vitek Vanacek. I thought Vanacek was the better goalie last year, and I think that he may start more often than Samsonov. Because Samsonov, to me, I think is more prone to giving up a lot of goals than Vanacek. I think Vanacek might be the better goalie for them going forward. And Peter Laviolette, I think the pressure's on. He's been there for a couple years, and I don't think they've made it out of the first round, if I'm not mistaken. So pressure's on there, and you know that media and fan base is very antsy. In fourth place in the Metropolitan Division, I have, with 98 points, and the first wildcard spot, the New York Rangers. Gerard Gallant replaces David Quinn as the head coach, and I think that was a good hire by New York, as the Rangers are a team that I think is ready to win now. They just extended Mika Zibanejad, which I think was a really good move. Ryan Strome, to me, I think gets too much hate from the fan base, but he's not a bad player, per se. And Philip Hedl is somebody that I think is better as a wing player than a center. Kevin Rudy's a good fourth liner. Artemi Panarin's one of the best point getters in the entire National Hockey League. That was one of the better free agent signings in the entire league over the last 5 years. Chris Kreider's still around. Capo Caco and Alexei Lafreniere are two guys they are banking on to have breakout years. Barclay Goodrow is a good offseason pickup. Defense, I think they'll be much better. They have the reigning Norris Trophy winner in Adam Fox. Keandre Miller is somebody I think could take the next step. Jacob Trouba was a trade acquisition, but that really hasn't worked out because the guy that they traded for him has performed with Winnipeg better than Trouba has with the Rangers. Whether that's due to injury or inconsistencies and what's not. Ryan Lindgren's pretty good too. Niels Lundqvist is a rookie that they're going to rely on this year. And Igor Shesterkin's in net. He's very good. And Alexander Georgiev is the backup, who isn't bad either and can start for a couple teams in the league. Fifth place in the Metropolitan Division with 95 points in the second wildcard spot, the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins are a team that I think the window for them to compete for Stanley Cups is closing as their core is getting older with guys like Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Chris Letang. Like, those guys are aging, so the Pens' window of success can not last much longer, you would think. But they've really done a nice job picking up nice complementary pieces, whether that was in trades or free agency, to surround them with, like Jeff Carter, Jason Zucker, Kasperi Kapanen. Brian Russ is a good player. And then they've developed guys as well, so there's that factor too. And on defense, Brian Dumoulin, John Marino. Cody Ceci was a trade pickup. Mike Matheson's not bad. And Tristan Jarry is starting for them in goal still. He wasn't terrible in the regular season last year, but in the postseason, he was really bad. And there were rumors floating around after the Penguins' season had ended that he was playing in the postseason injured. And maybe he was hurt, so we'll see if he rebounds from the poor playoff performance. And Mike Sullivan, to me, is a coach that I think is on the hot seat. In sixth place in the Metro Division with 93 points is the Philadelphia Flyers. Talk about another coach in the hot seat, Alain Vigneault. The Flyers, I have out of the postseason back-to-back years. They're normally an every other year team, but I just think the Flyers have so many problems that are fixable, but I just trust the other teams more in this division. I think that Carter Hart is the player under the most pressure in the entire National Hockey League this season. He was my pick to win the Vezina Trophy last year. He was my top goalie coming in the last season. I couldn't have been more wrong. I bought into the hype. I'll admit I was wrong. He might not be the guy that we thought he was. His defense has a lot of good offensive defensemen, with some good defensive defensemen. Like Ryan Ellis was brought in as an acquisition. Ivan Provorov, it's not bad. Rasmus Ristolainen, they brought in a trade. Travis Steenham's not bad. Keith Yandel is a free agent signing, I believe. Justin Braun. So they're deep on the fence. Offensively, they're decent. Claude Giroux is now playing the wing position. Sean Couturier is manning the middle of that top line. Travis Kansine, and you got Kevin Hayes, JVR, James Van Riemsdyk, and Cam Atkinson, who was traded for Jacob Voracek from Columbus, as Atkinson goes to Philly and Voracek goes to Columbus. Oscar Lindblom's back this year. That's good to see him back in the league after what he went through. Number 7 in the Metro Division, I have with 85 points, the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils, I think, are a franchise and team on the rise, but they're just in the stacked division. Lindy Ruff, I don't know if he's the long-term answer behind the bench for them, but he had them playing hard at times last year. And they knocked off a couple contenders as well from that division and really did a good job playing spoiler. Their top 2 down the middle are franchise guys, Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes. Yegor Sharangovich was solid for them last year. Pavel Zacha really hasn't put it all together yet. But defense is where they're deep. Dougie Hamilton, free agent signing. Ty Smith, someone who is a young player. They're going to rely on him. PK Subban, Ryan Graves, David Saverson. So they're deep on defense. And Mackenzie Blackwood's still net, but I'm not convinced he's the long-term answer. It's kind of like Tristan Jarry in Pittsburgh in a way, and Carter Hart in Philly. A lot of these guys, especially in this division, I'm more convinced about Igor Shesterkin and Ilya Sorokin in New York are more long-term bets than these guys. And even Ilya Samsonov, I'm not convinced is a long-term guy either. I might be Vanchek for what it's worth. I really like Vanchek better than Samsonov. But yeah, the Devils on the rise, but I don't think they're there yet. And then in the basement, the Metro Division, 74 points to Columbus Blue Jackets. So John Tortorella's out. They have a new head coach in Brad Larson. They made some interesting moves in the offseason. Their offense might be competent. They're banking on a lot of guys to break through. Jack Roslovic is someone they're banking on to break through. Same with Max Domi. Mikko Koivu's washed. Boonjiner, solid role player. Oliver Bjorkstrand might be a trade candidate. Gustav Nyquist is good. He might be a trade bait too. Patrick Laine, to me, is the guy, though, that has to really put it together and make that trade worth it for them. And then, obviously, Voracek comes over from Philadelphia to help out, too. Yegor Chinakhov is someone that is a young player they're relying on. And on defense, they're pretty deep. Or really not as deep, but they have some guys. Zach Werenski's good. Adam Boqvist they got in the Seth Jones deal from Chicago. Jake Bean has potential. Vladislav Garvikov has potential too. And then they have a good duo in net. Elvis Merzlikins and Jonas Korpisalo. And that's another Metropolitan Division goaltending thing. Which guy of those two is the long-term guy in Columbus. And if I had to make a bet, I'd say it's Elvis Merzlikins. I really like him a lot. All right, the Atlantic Division in first place. I have, with 110 points, the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Tampa Bay Lightning will be the pick here as long as they're healthy and they're good and ready to go. They're still a very deep team. This is going to be a scoring Lightning machine. Nikita Kucherov, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, Anthony Cirelli, Andre Palat, Alex Killorn. That's your top 6. That's loaded. And they have a lot of good depth pieces as well offensively. A couple vets like Corey Perry, Pat Maroon. And then on defense, they're stacked. Victor Hedman, Mikhail Sergachev, Ryan McDonough, Zach Bogosian. And to me, when's Cal Foote going to see some time? Because I think that he has potential to be awesome as well. Andrei Vasilevsky's their goalie. He's all-world. He was my number one goalie coming in to the season. And John Cooper, by the way, just got a contract extension, so congrats to him. Second place in this division, I have finishing with 104 points, the Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry, the Florida Panthers. I have football on my mind. I apologize. The Panthers, I think, last year were awesome. Joel Quenneville finally got a lot out of this team. Sergei Bobrovsky turned back the clock and looked like the guy from Columbus, and he's going to have to continue doing that if they are to be a contender this year. They're deep on defense. Aaron Ekblad, Mackenzie Weegar, Gustav Frostling. They got Ollie Jovelli from Vancouver, trying to see if he could be like a change of culture guy. Offensively, they're pretty stacked. Alexander Barkov and Sam Bennett's a nice 1-2 punch down the middle. Jonathan Huberdeau is awesome. Sam Reinhart was really good for them last year. Anthony Duclair's pretty good. He's like a hit or miss, though, at times. Patrick Hornquist, good role player. So, that's a team that I won't be stunned if they actually won this division. In third place in this division, I have with 100 points the Toronto Maple Leafs. This team could either win the division or entirely miss the postseason. But I decided to go middle ground on the Maple Leafs because I didn't know what to do with them. But they have that kind of ceiling/basement for me, at least. Austin Matthews, John Tavares, awesome 1-2 punch down the middle. William Nylander, Mitch Marner on the wings. They're very top-heavy in their top six, but they're not as deep as they used to be. There's some of the guys they have, to me, are just aging guys that really aren't the same players, like Wayne Simmons and Jason Spezza. Andre Case could help them, too, actually. Nick Ritchie's not bad. Alexander Kerfoot's not bad on the wing. On D, they're not bad either. They're actually pretty deep on D. More deep than you would think. Morgan Riley is a spectacular offensive defenseman. Jake Muzzin was a good trade pickup. T.J. Brody's a good player. Justin Hall's not bad either. Rasmus Sandin, good young player. Same with Travis Sturman and Timothy Liljegren. And then Jack Campbell's now the full-time starting goalie. That's where my concern with Toronto lies. It's similar to Pittsburgh in that sense. But the difference between those two teams is I think Pittsburgh is a little bit deeper than Toronto. But I do have Toronto finishing with more points because I feel that the Metro Division is weaker than the Metro Division. I think the Atlantic Division is the weaker of the two divisions. But Toronto arguably is a better team because they're more top-heavy than Pittsburgh. In fourth place in the Atlantic Division with 94 points, the Boston Bruins. Boston, to me, is a team that's in decline. I won't be shocked if they, kind of become, the next Blackhawks Kings, where the team, just isn't the same and they have to rebuild. I mean, the Rangers are a good example of that from a couple years ago, too, but I think they, did it prematurely, but it might have worked out for the better for them. We'll see. But, they're still top-heavy offensively. Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, Taylor Hall, David Pastrnak, Craig Smith, Charlie Coyle was a good acquisition a couple years ago. On defense, they're pretty deep. Charlie McAvoy, Matt Grzelcyk, Brendan Carlo, Mike Riley, Derek Forbett, Connor Clifton's your top six. And in goal, Linus Ullmark's supposed to start for them. He stinks, man. He stinks. If you didn't watch the Sabres last year, oh my God. Run away and hide. Boston sports fans won't be telling their grandparents about Linus Ullmark. And that, to me, is why I don't have them in the postseason. If they had Tuukka Rask, maybe I would feel stronger about Boston. But Tuukka Rask is not there right now in Boston. And another coach potentially on the hot seat is Bruce Cassidy. I mean, they haven't won a Stanley Cup since he's been there. I mean, he was in the final a couple years ago, but they lost in Game 7 to the Blues, so you could argue that they came darn close to winning the Cup a couple years ago. But sneaky hot seat coach in Bruce Cassidy in my mind. In 5th place, I have, with 86 points, the Montreal Canadiens. In the Stanley Cup final last season, but now I don't have them in the postseason. And that is mainly due to the slew of injuries this team has suffered throughout the playoffs last year and in the offseason. Carey Price is dealing with some personal issues. Shea Weber's not playing this year. Joel Edmondson's hurt. Mike Hoffman's hurt. Paul Byron's hurt. Cedric Paquette's dealing with some stuff. But they have a lot of players to fetch onto this year, like some young guys and some vets too. Nick Suzuki's going to be a franchise guy potentially. Christian Dvorak was a good acquisition from Arizona. Taro Toffoli, good player. Jonathan Drouin, to me, never really put it all together. Cole Caulfield's going to be amazing. Brendan Gallagher, very good player. Josh Anderson was a great trade pickup. I didn't think that when they made that deal, but I was wrong. Defense, they're still pretty deep despite no Shea Weber and even Joel Edmondson for a little bit. Jeff Petrie, good players. David Savard, good depth player. Ben Sherratt's not bad. Alexander Romanov, not bad. Brett Kulak, not bad. And then their starter with Carey Price out is Jake Allen, who's not bad, by the way. He's been on playoff teams with the Blues, so I'm not going to say that that's a bad option. And he's one of the better backup goalies in the league. So there's some argument for Montreal here. In 6th place, I have, finishing with 80 points, the Detroit Red Wings. I think the Red Wings are going to be one of the more surprising teams of the season. No, they won't make the postseason, but I do think that they will surprise some people and finish with more points than people expect. I absolutely loved the acquisition of Alex Nedeljkovic. They finally found a goalie. Finally. He was someone that was sensational for the Hurricanes last year. And I think they're making a comeback to regret this. If the Hurricanes underachieve, it's going to be because of the issues in goal. So, Carolina might be a potential disappointment this year, and that trade is going to be talked about for a long time. Although I do have them finishing in second, as I talked about. Offensively, the Red Wings are a little better than given credit for, I think. Dylan Larkin's good. Pius Suter wasn't bad. Michael Rasmussen's someone that is dealing with some problems right now, injury-wise. But I think he could get better. Jacob Vrana, they got in the Anthony Mantha deal. Vrana's a very good player. Robbie Fabry, potential change of scenery. Tyler Bertuzzi, good player. Philip Zadina is a young guy that might take a jump. Sam Gagner, good role player. And on defense, Philip Hronek was a second-round pick a couple years ago. Nick Leddy was a veteran pickup a couple years ago. Danny DeKeyser's not bad. Maurice Sider's a rookie that could have an impact. Mark Stoll was picked up last year. So their defense isn't as bad as it was the past couple of seasons. And Jeff Blashill, I think, is under some pressure to get this team to perform a little better. So that's why I think that they may overachieve a little bit this year. Not necessarily make the postseason, per se. In 7th place, I have with 72 points the Ottawa Senators. The Senators are still rebuilding. Their coach is still DJ Smith. And that's another coach I think is in trouble. They have some injuries that they're dealing with. Colin White, someone that they're banking on. Same with Austin Watson. He's a veteran. Josh Norris, Chris Tierney, not bad players down the middle. Brady Tkachuk, potential franchise guy on the wing. Tim Stützle, young guy that they're banking on to come through. Zach Sanford was a trade pickup. Drake Batherson, good young player. Connor Brown, solid player. Their defense is a little better. Thomas Chabot's a good offensive defenseman. Nikita Zaitsev's not terrible. Eric Brandstrom's young. Michael Del Zotto's a vet that's been in big games. Same with Nick Holden. And then Matt Murray is their goalie. And in the cellar of the Atlantic Division, 66 points. Of course, the Buffalo Sabres. I'm sorry. What a mess. The Jack Eichel stuff, the fact that he hasn't been traded yet, the injury stuff, it is very sketchy of a situation. And it's just sad and unfortunate. This is just dysfunction year after year. I feel like they have a new coach every year, which is sad. And Don Granato's their coach. He took over last year and got them playing hard in the second half. But he's showing them might be fired. Like, in 2022 if they don't live up to their team's quote-unquote expectations. Casey Middlestad's a player that could improve. Same with Dylan Cousins. Cody Eakin's not bad. Victor Olofsson can put up some points. Jeff Skinner's pretty good. But he was really bad last year. Same with Kyle Okposo. They might be on different teams in 6 months from now. Rasmus Dahlin's their number one D-man now with Rasmus Ristolainen gone, and Dahlin finally gets to be that guy. Andre Jokiaru's not bad. He's a player that's on the come. Colin Miller's a vet. Will Butcher comes over from New Jersey. Robert Hagg's been with the Sabres, I feel like, for a while. And it looks like that Craig Anderson won the starting job. That's not bad. Craig Anderson might be able to keep him in games. He's much better than what they've had the past couple years. Linus Ullmark, come on. Like, if Craig Anderson was on the Bruins, they might be a playoff team. But no, Craig Anderson's stuck on this shit team. All right, next up, the Central Division. In first place for this division, I'm finishing with 113 points. The Colorado Avalanche. I mean, come on. They're the overwhelming favorites in this division, and rightfully so. They have the best top line in the league. Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, Mikko Rantanen. They're all signed up long-term. Nazem Kadri's a good number 2 guy. Tyson Yost is solid. Andrei Burakovsky isn't a bad second-line winger. JT Compher's someone that disappointed a little bit last year. They want him to be better. Valeri Nichushkin, young draft pick, they want to emerge. Same with Alex Newhook, their fourth-line center. Their defense is very deep. Cale Makar, Sam Gerard, Devin Taves is hurt. Bowen Byram was a first-round pick a few years ago. Eric Johnson's not terrible. Ryan Murray's a good depth piece. So is Curtis McDermott. And Darcy Kemper's now their starting goalie, replacing former Capitals and now Avalanche goalie Philip Grubauer. So you can make a case they upgraded in net, too, which really helps Colorado, in my opinion. Second place in this division I have the Minnesota Wild. I love the Wild. I mean, if they weren't in this division, maybe I would have picked them to win another division. This team's good. Their coach last year rightfully won the Jack Adams Award. Dean Evason. He's an awesome coach. He really got a lot out of them last year. The goalie tandem, to me, is still not the greatest in Cam Talbot and Kaapo Kähkönen. But their defense is so good that they can overcome that. Jonas Brodin, Jared Spurgeon, Matt Dumba. It's a great top 3. And Alex Gogliaski to round out the top 4. And their offense is pretty deeper than you would think. Joel Eriksson Ek's a player on the rise. Victor Rask isn't bad. Neither is Ryan Hartman. They got him in the trade. Kirill Kaprizov's back after rumors that he was going to go to the KHL. Kevin Fiala's not a bad player. Mats Zuccarello's injured, but he was really good for them last year. Marcus Foligno, good player. Nick Bjugstad, solid player as well. In third place, I have with 105 points, the St. Louis Blues. The Blues were a team that made the postseason last year. I think that they'll be back in the playoffs comfortably this upcoming season. Craig Berube has been tossed around as a hot seat guy, which is lunacy to me because the Blues just won the Cup 2 years ago. So I just think that those are lunacy, and I think Berube feels that way as well. Jordan Binghamton's still around as a starter. Offensively, they're pretty deep. Ryan O'Reilly, Brady Shen, Tyler Bozak down the middle. David Perron, good player. Brandon Saad, I think, will help him. Kyle Clifford, I think, is a good bottom six forward as well. Good trade add in Pavel Buchnevich coming over from the Rangers. Vlad Tarasenko, I think, is going to have a chip on his shoulder this year after trade rumors in the offseason. And on defense, they're deep. Torrey Krug, Justin Fall, Colton Parayko, Marco Scandella, Robert Bertuzzo. In fourth place, I have with 97 points and finishing with the first wild card in the Western Conference, the Nashville Predators. The Preds have been a perennial playoff contender year in and year out over the last decade, regardless if it was Pekka Rinne or Jussi Saros in net, and now it's just Saros' net as Rinne retired in the offseason. John Hines, I think, did a good job with this team last year, getting them the rally towards the end of the season. And their backup, by the way, isn't bad. David Redditch started for a contending Flames team a couple years ago. So, down the middle, they're actually deep, but not super deep. Ryan Johansson, I feel like, is underperformed as a Nashville Predator. Mikael Granlund's not bad. Cody Glass, I think, is a change of scenery candidate that could succeed. Colton Sissons, I think, will be good this year as well. And on the wings, Philip Forsberg, Matt Duchene, Eli Tolvanen, Luke Kunin, Rocco Grimaldi, all good players. And on defense, it's still their strength. Roman Yosi's still awesome. Matthias Elkom's underrated. Dante Fabro is a young player that's getting better. Philippi Myers ain't bad either. So Nashville should be fine. Fifth place with 94 points in the Central Division, the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets made the postseason last year. They lost in the second round, getting swept by the Montreal Canadiens. This team has some issues right now. That's why I left them out of the postseason. Mark Sheffley suspended to start the year. Brian Little on injury reserve. Pierre-Luc Dubois, someone that really didn't put it all together yet after he got traded. Adam Lowry's not a bad player. Kyle Connors and Blake Wheeler are just dominant players on the wings. But will they have that same production with Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's a drop-off from Sheffley? Nikolaj Ehlers is awesome. Paul Stastny's a good vet. And on defense, they're deeper than they've been. Josh Morrissey's really good. Neil Pionk, great trade pickup from the Rangers a couple years ago. Brendan Dillon's a good vet. So is Nate Schmidt. They got him from Vancouver. Dylan DeMello, not a bad player. Logan Stanley's a young guy that they're relying on. Ville Heinola is someone to keep an eye on that I think can crack the lineup sooner rather than later. And Connor Hellebuck's a solid goalie that's going to potentially keep them in those low-scoring games. In sixth place, I have with 92 points, the Dallas Stars. The Stars, to me, are very interesting. They did not make the postseason a year ago after making the Stanley Cup final. They have the same offensive core pretty much intact. Tyler Seguin, Joe Pavelski, Jamie Benn, Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson. It's a guy that had a great year last year, but he's hurt. Blake Comeau, same thing. Alexander Radulov still around. Denis Guranov still around. And on defense, they're deeper than they've been with the addition of Ryan Sutter. And they have Miro Heiskanen, John Klingberg, and Asa Lindell. Andrei Sekera's not bad either. And then where I have concerns is in goal. Ben Bishop, injury reserve. Antoine Khudobin was who took them to the final in the bubble last year, but is he really the long-term answer? Now Brady Holtby's there after his 1-year stint in Vancouver. In 7th place, I have with 88 points the Chicago Blackhawks. Is there a coach in the National Hockey League that is on a hotter seat than Jeremy Colleton? I don't know. Probably not. Jonathan Taves back from that heart issue he had last year. Patrick Kane's still around and still awesome. Alex DeBrincat was a steal of a draft pick a couple years ago. Kirby Doc could get better. Adam Gaudette's a solid player down the middle. Dylan Strome's a good player. Dominic Kubalak's a good points getter too for a top 6 guy. Tyler Johnson change of scenery potentially. Andrew Shaw's on the IR. And on defense, with the addition of Seth Jones, they're deep. Connor Murphy, Jake McCabe, Calvin DeHaan, all pretty good. So they have a good top 4 now. And in goal is Marc-Andre Fleury, who they acquired from the Vegas Golden Knights. So there's an avenue that they make the postseason. But I just think this division is absolutely loaded. And there's just too much pressure. And there's some injuries that I've been concerned about with this team. And Fleury's age, obviously, too. And in the cellar of this division, 64 points, the Arizona Coyotes. They're atrocious. This is the worst team in the league. They're tanking. And you could argue Buffalo all you want, but this team is absolutely tanking. Their top 3 is pretty good. Their top line, Nick Schmaltz, Clayton Keller, Phil Kessel. They have a good number 1 D-man in Jacob Chychrun. Their starting goalie's former Sabre, Carter Hutton. He sucks. But their depth beyond their top line is awful. Jay Beagle as our third-line center? Come on. Christian Fisher, he's a fourth-line guy. He was a fourth-line guy when they made the second round of the playoffs a few years ago in the bubble. Ryan Zingle, good role player, though. Lawson Krause, this team stinks, and they're going to be trading guys, too. Shea Gostisbehere's on this team, too, by the way, and I think that he can rejuvenate himself a little bit here with Arizona. And they also now have a new head coach in Andre Tourigny. All right, the Pacific Division. In first place, I have with 111 points, the Vegas Golden Knights. This team is a juggernaut. A juggernaut. They've been a contender since day one, but who knew at the time? They've been in the playoffs every year. They've won several division titles. I think they have another one too. Down the middle, I have concerns. Chandler Stevenson, William Karlsson, a good top 2, but Nolan Patrick, they're banking on a change of scenery from him from being a Boston Philly. Brett Howden, former Tampa Bay Lightning / Rangers cast-off, who really hasn't panned out. He's hurt. And then Max Pacioretty, Jonathan Marchessault, Mark Stone, Riley Smith is a great way to round out your top 6. And they have depth on the wings, too. Matthias Janmark, William Carrier. Alex Tuck's on the IR. That sucks for them. Evgeny Dadonov's good. Nick Roy is good. He's hurt, though. And in defense, they're awesome. Alex Pietrangelo, great free agent signing. Shea Theodore's great. Alec Martinez is a good pickup. Brady McNabb's good. Zach Whitecloud even is serviceable. Nick Cave as well. And then Robin Leonard, this is his net. and he doesn't have to worry about Fleury down his neck. And I really think that Peter DeBoer's done a great job with this team. In second place, I have with 105 points, the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers are usually what everybody likes to call a fantasy team, because they have a lot of fantasy guys, but they always tend to underperform when it matters. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl is the best center duo in the league. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Zach Hyman are good line mates for them, and so is Kyler Yamamoto. Jesse Puljujarvi is someone that they're really banking on. Wow. Zach Kazen's pretty solid as a bottom six. So is Derek Ryan. Martin Fogel's not bad either. On defense, they are pretty deep. Darnell Nurse, Tyson Barrie, Duncan Keith, who they got from Chicago in a trade, Chris Russell, Evan Bouchard. Not bad. And then in net, it's the Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen duo again. Failing to upgrade there might be their bugaboo. Similar to Carolina in the East, except Carolina got rid of the guy that I thought should be their goalie right now. Number 3 in the Pacific Division, the Calgary Flames I have with 102 points. I think Calgary is in for a big bounce-back season. Darryl Sutter's first full season. I think they're going to be motivated by him, and they're going to play defense, and their goaltending is going to be solid, led by Jacob Markstrom, who was the big money free agent signing from a year ago. Their defense, Rasmus Anderson, Noah Hanifin are two guys that have serious potential, but they really haven't put it together yet. Jusuf Alamaki, someone that they're breaking on to improve. Nikita Zadorov, same thing. And then offensively, they're deep down the middle. Elias Lindholm, Sean Monahan, Mikael Backlund, Brad Richardson. Richardson's hurt too. And on the wings, Matt Tkachuk, Johnny Gaudreau is a really good wing duo for Lindholm. Dylan Dubé. Blake Coleman suspended. That's not good for them. And then they have some decent depth pieces too, like I mentioned, Richardson, Milan Lucic, Brett Ritchie, Andrew Magniapane as well. And in fourth place in this division with 95 points and the second wild card in the Western Conference, the Vancouver Canucks. Yes, I'm calling for the Canucks to make the postseason, and I always pick a surprise postseason team every year, and every year we do have a surprise postseason team in the NHL, and I think it's going to be Vancouver. I really think that they're going to bounce back from last season's disappointment with the COVID outbreak, which really ruined their season a year ago. Elias Pettersson paid. Quinn Hughes paid. They're ready to go. Travis Green's a good coach. It's Pettersson, Bo Horvat, Jason Dickinson down the middle, and Brandon Sutter. Sutter's hurt. And on the wings, you got Brock Besser, who's hurt. JT Miller, who is a really, really good pickup for them in free agency a few years ago. Tanner Pearson's pretty good as a role player. Connor Garland's not bad. Vasily Podkolzin is someone that's young that they're relying on. Tyler Mott's a good depth player. Niels Hollinger, someone they're banking on too. And on defense, you have Hughes, who's amazing, and I think is up for the Norris this year. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, great trade pickup by them. Tyler Myers, pretty good. Luke Schen's a good depth defenseman. So is Tucker Poolman as well. And Thatcher Demko, I think, is a young goalie that has some potential to grow as well here. This is similar to Tristan Jarry in Pittsburgh in terms of could be a little inconsistent, but just has a lot of potential to be great. In fifth place in the Pacific Division, I have with 84 points the Los Angeles Kings. I consider the Kings for the final playoff spot in the West, but they have so many issues that I think that need to be addressed. I think they'll be competitive at times throughout the season. This team tends to have a lot of pride. I almost said Luke Walton because that's the Sacramento Kings. And I think that that could be a team that could blow it up as well. Todd McClellan is a coach that normally coaching rebuilding teams, ironically enough, Edmonton, for example. And I think he's also a coach that could potentially be on the hot seat if things go worse than they feel. Quentin Byfield hurt. Anze Kopitar's still around. Gabriel Velarde, they're banking on to be great. Philip Deneau, they're banking on him being a good pickup. Alex Iafallo and Adrian Company is a good top two on the left side. Brendan Lemieux, good role player who they got from the Rangers last year. Victor Vreetzen, good trade pickup. Dustin Brown's the captain. He's still around. On defense, they have some names on defense, but I don't know if it'll add up to great results. Like, Drew Doughty's still Drew Doughty. Alex Adler's not a bad vet. Mikey Anderson, not a bad vet. Tobias Jordan Foote is a little inconsistent. Matt Roy, same thing. Ali Mata's hurt. But their starter right now looks like it's Cal Peterson over veteran Jonathan Quick, who I think they are looking to trade away and start anew there in LA. In sixth place, I have with 77 points, the Seattle Kraken. Yes, I do not have Seattle in the cellar. I think Seattle is a team that could give some people 2017-18 Vegas vibes, where they get off to that great start, but except that they fall apart unlike Vegas. Offensively, they have some nice players, like Alexander Wennberg, Callie, John Kruk down the middle. John Cook's hurt. Jaden Schwartz on the top wing. Jared McCann, good role player. He's hurt. Yanni Goudreau, good role player. He's hurt. Brendan Tanev, not a bad role player. Jordan Eberle's not bad. Mason Appleton, okay. Jonas Donskoy, injured. Colin Blackwell, injured. Ryan Donato's not a bad role player either. Defensively, Mark Giordano is the big-ticket guy. Vince Dunn's not bad. Adam Larson comes over from Edmonton. Jamie Alexiak comes over from Dallas. He's hurt. And in goal, Philip Grubauer. And behind him is Chris Drieger from Florida. So they don't have a bad goalie tandem. That's why I think that this team could be in some games. And Dave Haxtell, the ex-Flyers coach, is coaching them. And Haxtell's not a bad coach. He just got ousted from Philly because the Flyers are a dysfunctional franchise. Send the fire coaches often. In seventh place, I have 75 points, Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim, to me, is a team that still needs to get some youth in the mix. They're trying their best to mix youth and veterans, but I think it's time to move on from some veterans. Trevor Zegras is somebody that they're relying on to be their number one center. Ryan Getzlaff's still around. Adam Henrique, maybe a trade bait. They're relying on guys like Troy Terry, Max Kamatis, Comtois to really come through. And Isaac Lundstrom's a high draft pick, too, that they want to perform. Max Jones, too. Ricard Raquel, solid player, maybe trade bait. Defense, they're actually pretty deep. Cam Fowler, Jamie Drysdale, Hampus Lindholm, Kevin Shattenkirk, Josh Mason, and Josh Manson's hurt. And in goal is John Gibson, who's rock solid and will keep them in games. And in the cellar in the Pacific Division with 70 points, the San Jose Sharks. I think either them or Columbus is the best last place team. Right now, I would say Columbus because of Elvis Merzlikins, but the best Western Conference last place team is, to me, San Jose. They're similar to Anaheim and the Kings, where it's a mix of veteran and young and some guys that could be trade bait. Their starter in net might be Adin Hill, who flashed some potential last year. James Reiner's the backup. He's okay. A good top four on defense, though. Brent Burns, Erik Karlsson, Marc-Edouard Vlasic, Mario Ferraro. They'll put up points. I mean, the Evander Kane situation is going to be hanging over this team. They're probably going to trade him for, who knows, maybe 40 cents on the dollar. Kevin LeBlanc's not bad. Neither is Matt Nieto. So their depth on the right side isn't bad. Down the middle, they're actually not bad either. Logan Couture, Thomas Hertl, Nick Bonino, Patrick Marleau, but Marleau's aging. Couture is hit or miss, has been hurt a little bit too. Timo Meier is somebody that they really like, but they're not as deep on the left side. Andrew Cogliano is a good role player that came over in the offseason, though. Alrighty, so the playoffs. The first round. The Metropolitan Division. I have the Metro 1-seeded Islanders against the wild card number 1 New York Rangers. This is, to me, the best rivalry in hockey right now, the two New York teams. These teams hate each other. Their fans don't like each other when it comes to hockey. And I think it's going to be a competitive series. Two young goalies, Ilya Sorokin and Igor Shesterkin, going toe-to-toe potentially. And two good coaches. Competitive series. Two good offenses. But to me, the difference is that the Islanders' depth is better than the Rangers' depth. And that's why I'm going Islanders in 6 over the Rangers. Metropolitan Division 2-seed Carolina Hurricanes against the Metropolitan Division 3-seed Washington Capitals. These two teams met in the postseason in the past, with Carolina beat them in 7 in overtime on a goal by Justin Williams. I believe that was the 2019 Stanley Cup playoffs, the one right before COVID. So this is where it's interesting. I do think that Carolina might be better in goal come playoff time, but we'll see about that. I just think that Carolina is more top-heavy than Washington, with Aho and Nino Niederreiter and Teuvo Teravainen and all those guys on that team. And Washington's actually pretty deep too, but I think Carolina's a little more top-heavy than Washington. I think it's a great series, but I'm going to say Hurricanes over the Caps in 6 games. Atlantic Division 1 seed Tampa Bay Lightning against the Eastern Conference wildcard number 2 Pittsburgh Penguins. This is actually a matchup on opening night, which is kind of funny. These two teams are playing each other tomorrow night on ESPN. Tampa's still Tampa. Very top-heavy offensively. Defense depth. Very good in net. And I think they have every advantage over Pittsburgh in this series, with the possible exception of depth scoring. Because I don't think they have the same depth scoring as they did. Like, Cedric Paquette's gone and some of those other guys are gone. And that's where the only area where I think Pittsburgh could have an edge. But that said, John Cooper's a better coach than Mike Sullivan. Andre Vasilevsky's better than Tristan Jarry. I mean, Crosby could be the best player in the series, but also could be Nikita Kucherov. And Nikita Kucherov has better players around him than Crosby at this point. So, Lightning in 5 over Pittsburgh. Atlantic Division 2 seed Florida Panthers and Atlantic Division 3 seed Toronto Maple Leafs. Fun series. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in this series. Sergei Bobrovsky's had his history of playoff flops. I don't trust Jack Campbell in the postseason. But to me, the series comes down to depth, and I think the Panthers have much more depth than the Maple Leafs, so I'm going to go with the Panthers over the Maple Leafs in 6 games. Western Conference, Central Division 1 seed Colorado Avalanche against the Western Conference wildcard number 2 Vancouver Canucks. I think that this could potentially be a mismatch. Colorado is just so deep. They're better everywhere than Vancouver. Darcy Kemper's better than Thatcher Demko. And I think that this is a sweep, so Avalanche in 4 over the Canucks. Central Division 2 seed Minnesota Wild against the Central Division 3 seed St. Louis Blues. I think this is the best of the Western Conference series. of the first round. The other one I think is better is in the East, is Islanders Rangers, which I talked about earlier. I like this potential series. Two really good head coaches, Craig Berube, and then from Minnesota, Dean Evason. I think the goalie thing's a wash, personally, with Binnington and Talbot or Kakkonen. But to me, the difference here is, I think, home ice. And that's the Wild. So Wild and 7 over the Blues. Because I think they're about even everywhere. So it just came down to who I projected more points and who was home ice in the series. Pacific Division 1 seed Vegas Golden Knights and the wild card Western Conference number 1 Nashville Predators. I think that this could be a competitive series. Nashville's always competitive. They're competitive in the playoffs last year against Carolina. Could have won that series too, by the way. The Golden Knights are the Golden Knights. They're awesome. Led by Leonard in goal, the deep defense, and all their offensive arsenal. With guys like Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone. And in Nashville, deep defensively. Their offense isn't as deep as Vegas is in my mind, although it could be better. Juuse Saros, amazing in goal as well. Coaching, I'd say it's a wash as well. Because I think, and it's funny because the funny subplot of this potential series is, this is like the former New Jersey Devils head coach bowl. You got John Hines and you got Peter DeBoer. But I'm going to go with DeBoer over Hines. So Golden Knights over the Preds in 6, just because I think the Golden Knights' depth is better. And then the last one, the Pacific Division 2-seeded Edmonton Oilers against the Pacific Division 3-seed Calgary Flames. These two teams, I think, are near identical. Offensively, I think Edmonton is more top-heavy than Calgary, but I think that they're both deep. Defensively, I think it's a little bit of a wash for both teams. I think the coaches, I think the coaching edge might go to Daryl Sutter. Because Sutter is one. And Dave Tippett, to me, is a guy that has had some success, but has tended to get axed at times. But to me, the difference is the goaltending, and Jacob Markstrom is better than that Edmonton duo. So give me the Calgary Flames over the Edmonton Oilers in 6 games. The semifinals. All right, so you got the Metro Division 1 seed Islanders against the Metro Division 2 seed Carolina Hurricanes. Great potential series here. Again, I think, now this is where I think the goaltending of the Hurricanes can fault there. And I think that Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov can rise to the occasion here. So I'm going Islanders over the Hurricanes in 6. Atlantic Division 1 seed Lightning against the 2-seeded Panthers. I just think that the Panthers are deep, but I don't think that Bobrovsky can outplay Vasilevsky, so Lightning in 6. Central Division 1 seed Avalanche against the Central Division 2 seed Minnesota Wild. Phenomenal series, in my opinion. Absolutely sensational. I think the Wild are going to compete till the bitter end. But I think the firepower of the Avalanche and the advantage in net will decide it. So Avalanche in 7 over the Wild. And then the Pacific Division 1 seed Golden Knights against the Pacific Division 3 seeded Calgary Flames. Good potential series, but I just think that the Knights are just deeper and better. So Knights in 5 over the Flames. Conference finals, you have the Atlantic Division 1 seed Tampa Bay Lightning against the Metro Division 1 seed New York Islanders for the 3rd year in a row, right? Here we go again. But this time around, I have a different result. I'm going with the Islanders in 6 because they are deeper than the Lightning, in my opinion, this year. So give me the Islanders in 6 over the Lightning to advance to the Stanley Cup Final. for the first time in a long time. And then on the other side, in the Western Conference Final, I have the Central Division 1 seeded Colorado Avalanche against the Pacific Division 1 seeded Vegas Golden Knights. So a rematch from last year's second round series in which the Golden Knights won in 6 over Colorado after trailing 2-1 in the series. I think they were down 2-1. I don't remember. But great series. 2 great teams. To me, it came down to home ice, and that's Colorado. So Colorado in 7 over Vegas. And then the Stanley Cup Final, phenomenal matchup. You have the Western Conference champ and Central Division 1 seed Colorado Avalanche against Eastern Conference champ and Metro Division 1 seed New York Islanders. I think this is a great final all around. Very good, very deep team. Stars abound. You have Denver, you have New York. A lot of big names, like I mentioned, 2 great coaches, and Jared Bendar and Barry Trotz. But to me, the star power of the Avalanche is what's going to come through, because usually star power wins in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We see it all the time. We see it with the Lightning the last 2 years with Kucherov and Stamkos and Hedman. We saw it with Washington with Ovechkin. We saw it with Pittsburgh with Crosby and Malkin. Chicago, when they had their run with Taves and Kane. The Kings with Kopitar and Doughty and Quick. So you have to be, to me, star-driven in this spot. And then the Blues with Vlad Tarasenko and Ryan O'Reilly. But that one just gets forgotten about for whatever reason. But those guys are stars. So, I think the star power is too much for the Islanders. So, I'm going to go with the Avalanche over the Islanders in 6 games. Conn Smythe Trophy, Darcy Kemper. All right, so, awards for the season. I have winning the Hart Trophy, Nathan MacKinnon. Runner-up, Artemi Panarin. Norris Trophy, Quinn Hughes. It's a fun one. Runner-up, Roman Josi. The Vezina, I got Darcy Kemper. Runner-up, Robin Leonard. The Calder, I got Alex Nedeljkovic. And the runner-up, Trevor Zegras. The Jack Adams, I got Travis Green. Because I think the Canucks return to the postseason. Runner-up, Barry Trotz. Because he's Barry Trotz. And I think they win that loaded division. The Art Ross, I'm going to go with McKinnon. Runner-up, Connor McDavid. The Selke, I'm going to go with Ryan O'Reilly. Runner-up, Alexander Barkov. Rocket Richard, let's go with Artemi Panarin of the Rangers. And then the runner-up, let's go with Austin Matthews. Alrighty. Some superlatives here. Let's start with best rookies. Boston. This is a tough one here. They have some good young talent. And let's go with, best rookie for the Boston Bruins. Let's go with goaltender Jeremy Swayman. He'll split with Linus Ullmark, and maybe he will put some good games together for him. The Buffalo Sabres, I don't think we'll see Owen Power this year, which is unfortunate. But for Buffalo, let's go with Matthias Samuelsson. Detroit Red Wings. This one I feel very strong about, and it's Alex Nedeljkovic. Florida Panthers. Let's go with Georgi Denisenko. Montreal Canadiens, Cole Caulfield. Ottawa Senators. Let's go with Tim Stützle. The Tampa Bay Lightning, Callan Foote. The Toronto Maple Leafs. We will go. This is another tough one. Good one for Toronto. Brett Seabrook won't count for this. Maybe Joseph Wall, the backup goalie. All right, Carolina, we're going with Seth Jarvis. Columbus, Adam Bovequist. New Jersey. I don't think Ty Smith counts, unfortunately. Or else he's the answer to this question. But, let's roll with, all right, Shakir Mukhamadullin. Let's go for New Jersey. Isles. Noah Dobson's played 2 full years already. He's not a rook. I wonder if Oliver Wahlstrom's still considered a rook. Nope. Sorokin's not. Let's go with Simone Hallstrom for the Islanders. Rangers' best rookie, Nils Lundqvist. Philadelphia, their best rookie player. Let's go with Tyson Forster. Pittsburgh, that's a tough one too, because they tend to trade draft picks year in and year out. But they really do produce some fine picks as well. That's their specialty in the Sidney Crosby era. So let's go with, let's go with Radim Zorona for Pittsburgh. And then Washington, we're going to go with Connor McMichael. And then the West for this. Let's start with the Anaheim Ducks. Jamie Drysdale. Arizona. Let's do for Zona. That's another tough one for Arizona. Let's go with Victor Soderstrom. Calgary. They have a lot of potential young guys that can come through. Johannes Kinval. Edmonton. We'll go. Let's go with Dylan Holloway. Maybe he'll come through this year. LA Kings. I think for sure it's going to be Quentin Byfield if he's considered a rook. But if it ain't him, then it's going to be Tavares Bjornfoot. San Jose. Oh, they are really lacking because of some bad trades. And such. Rudolph Balkers doesn't count. He played a lot last year. Let's go with Lane Peterson, maybe. Vancouver's a good one. I think it's going to be Niels Hollinger. And then Vegas. Just thinks that Cody Glass never really broke through for them. Let's go with Brendan Bryson. Maybe he gets an opportunity. Central Division are going to do this very quick. The Blackhawks. Obviously, Boquist would have been the pick, but he's not around. So instead, let's go with Lucas Reichel. Maybe he'll get a shot this year. The Avs, I think for sure it's going to be Bowen Byram. Dallas, this is a hard one. But let's go with Ty Dellandrea if he's considered a rook. The Minnesota Wild, they have some interesting guys. Let's go with Matt Boldy. Nashville, another tough one. But let's go with Philip Tomasino. The Blues, I think their best rook, I think it could be Jake Neighbors if he comes up. And then the Winnipeg Jets, last but not least, Logan Stanley. All right, now non-rookie breakout / most improved players. Anaheim, Trevor Zegras. Arizona. Ooh, this is a tough one. Maybe Ilya Labushkin. Boston, I'm going to say it's finally the year for Jake DeBrusk. Buffalo. Let's go with Casey Middlestat. Calgary, Noah Hannafin. Carolina, Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Chicago, Kirby Dach. Colorado, Samuel Gerard. Columbus, Adam Bovequist, although he's a rook. So let's go with Merzlikins. Dallas, I think it's going to be Dennis Gurinov. Detroit, Philip Zadina. Edmonton, Jesse Puljujarvi. Florida, let's go with... I really think it could be Mackenzie Weegar. The Kings, Gabriel Velarde. Minnesota, Joel Eriksson Ek. Montreal, let's go with Alexander Romanov. Nashville, Eli Tolvanen. New Jersey, Jack Hughes. Islanders, Anthony Beauvillier. Rangers, Alexis Lafreniere. Ottawa, we'll go with Brady Tkachuk. Philly, Joel Farabee. Pittsburgh, Kasperi Kapanen. San Jose, Kevin LeBlanc. Seattle, Jared McCann. St. Louis, Robert Thomas. Tampa Bay, Mikhail Sergachev. Toronto, I really think their most improved is going to be Rasmus Sandin on defense. Vancouver, let's go with Thatcher Demko. Vegas, Nolan Patrick, and Washington, let's go with... this is a tough one for most improved. I'm going to go Vitek Vanacek or Breakout, whatever. And in Winnipeg, we'll go with the youngster, Dylan DeMello. Disappointment players. Ryan Getzlaf of Anaheim. Arizona, Jay Beagle. Boston, Charlie Coyle. Buffalo, Jeff Skinner. Calgary, Sean Monahan. Carolina, Freddie Anderson. Chicago, Marc-Andre Fleury. Colorado, Nazem Kadri. Columbus, this is a tough one. I think this is by default because I think the one is better than the other, but Jonas Korpisalo. Dallas, Joe Pavelski. Detroit, Pius Sutter. Edmonton, Derek Ryan. Florida, Anthony DeClaire. Kings, Philip Deneau. Minnesota, Jared Spurgeon. Montreal, Jeff Petrie. Nashville, Matt Duchene. New Jersey, Dougie Hamilton, just overpaid. Islanders, Zach Parise. Rangers, Sammy Blaze. Ottawa, Chris Tierney. Philly, Ryan Ellis. Pittsburgh, this is another tough one. Jeff Carter. because he's getting a little older. San Jose, Patrick Marleau. Seattle, Mark Giordano. St. Louis, because of the trade stuff, I think Vlad Tarasenko just maybe not as good as he usually is. Tampa, Corey Perry. Toronto, Jack Campbell. Vancouver, Tanner Pearson. Vegas, I guess Alec Martinez. And Washington, let's go with Tom Wilson. And Winnipeg, Sheffley because of the suspension stuff. Make or break players for every team. The Ducks. I think potentially Max Comtois. Arizona. Make or break guy. Lawson Krause. Boston. Maybe somebody like Nick Foligno, because he's not that's not really as good anymore. Buffalo. I think that the make or break guy on this team could be Zegmas Gregenson's former first round pick. Calgary, Juuso Valimaki. Carolina, make or break guy on this team. Maybe Tony DeAngelo, just give him one more chance type of thing. Chicago, has to be Dylan Strome, right? Colorado's a good one too. I guess Tyson Yost. Dallas, I'd say potentially Khudobin. Detroit, to me, is Michael Rasmussen. Edmonton, Kyler Yamamoto. Florida, Owen Tippett. LA Kings. It's weird to say Jonathan Quick, but it might be. Because he lost his job to Cal Peterson. Minnesota's a good one. Maybe Ryan Hartman, because he's been traded so much. Montreal, it has to be Druin, right? So he actually makes or breaks without injuries. Nashville's a good one. I gotta say Cody Glass. New Jersey. I guess Pavel Zacha. All these are hard. Islanders, to me, the make or break guy on this team from a standpoint of he can see some time if one of the goalies is hurt. Like right now with Varlamov, Corey Schneider. Rangers to me is Libor Hajek. Ottawa, Colin White. Philly, Carter Hart, amazingly enough. So much for what could happen in a year. Pittsburgh, Tristan Jarry for me. San Jose, to me, that's another tough one. I would say, it would have to be somebody like a Radim Simek or Nikolai Nizov or something like that. But I guess Evander Kane would be the answer because of all the legal stuff. The Kraken. This would usually go to a player that would be all those guys that are on Vegas, like those types of players. So I would go here with maybe Morgan Geekie. St. Louis, to me, it's Jordan Kyrou. Tampa, another hard one, maybe from a standpoint of potential value rebuilding and whatnot, or whether he could still be good on a good team, is Brent Seabrook, who's on injury reserve. Toronto, for me, this guy seems to bounce around a lot, and it's their backup goalie, Peter Mrazek. Vancouver, to me, from a health standpoint, it's Brandon Sutter. Vegas, to me, is like the potential make or break guy for this team in terms of a player facing a make or break year. Let's go with Brett Howden. Washington, that's a tough one. To me, it's Samsonov, because I think Vanacek outplayed him last year. And then, to me, Winnipeg's make or break guy should be maybe because he's bounced around a little bit over the last couple years, but Nate Schmidt, to find like a home more consistent. Bold predictions for every team. Gonna try to be quick here. We're gonna go by my division standings. My bold prediction for the New York Islanders is that Matt Barzal will have a career high in points. Carolina, I think that they acquire a goaltender at the trade deadline to improve on what they have. Maybe it is Jonas Korpisalo. Maybe it's Capo Kakinen, but they're going to try something. Maybe they bring back Peter Mrazek, but they'll acquire a goalie at the deadline. The Washington Capitals, I think that I've given away several times. Vitek Vanacek will have a better season than Ilya Samsonov. Rangers, I'm going to say that I gave it away earlier. Artemi Panarin leads the league in goals. The Pittsburgh Penguins, let's say that they fire Mike Sullivan at the end of the season after a 5-game series loss in the first round against the Lightning. The Flyers fire Alain Vigneault after the season. The New Jersey Devils will trade a couple veterans at the deadline to try to make themselves like a younger, might continue the rebuild kind of a thing. But I just don't know who those are necessarily. The Blue Jackets, my bold prediction for them is that Jacob Voracek will lead the team in goals. Atlantic Division, the Lightning. For them, I'm going to say that Braden Point leads the team in points. That's kind of funny. The Florida Panthers, I'm going to say that Spencer Knight won't be as good as he was last year. The Maple Leafs, they also try to upgrade at goal at the deadline. Maybe Jonathan Quick, because they seem to be acquiring the ex-Kings. The Boston Bruins will try for that rookie goaltender that I mentioned earlier, Jeremy Swayman, and he will outplay Linus Ullmark. Montreal, I'm going to say that Carey Price comes back mid-season, but doesn't look the same as he did in those finals run and the playoff run last year in the bubble. The Red Wings, despite massive improvement, Jeff Blashill is fired. The Senators, DJ Smith will be fired during the season, and I think he'll be the first coach fired. Let's go with that. And then Buffalo, they'll finally trade Jack Eichel, and I think the team that gets him, let's get wild and say it's the Minnesota Wild, and maybe they throw in like Ryan Hartman. I think the value goes down. Maybe it's like Ryan Hartman, a couple picks, and maybe Kalen Addison or something like that. The Central Division, the Avalanche, my bold prediction for them is that they'll have 2 major award winners, and none of them is Cale Makar. It's going to be McKinnon for the Hart and Kemper for Vezina. My bold prediction for the Minnesota Wild, I made their wild prediction about Jack Eichel, but let's say that for their own bold prediction that Jared Spurgeon won't finish among the top 2 in points for defensemen on the team. The St. Louis Blues, Vlad Tarasenko does not get traded, because I feel like everyone's going to predict that he is getting traded. The Nashville Predators, my prediction for them is that they will acquire a big-name veteran that's on now a lousy team. Like, could Anze Kopitar be in play? Ryan Getzlaf? Logan Couture? Like one of those big-name franchise type of guys. I could see them, the Preds being on one of them. My prediction for the Winnipeg Jets is that Paul Maurice finally gets fired. This guy, I've been calling for his job for a long time. I think he finally gets axed. The Dallas Stars, my bold prediction for them is that Rick Bowness will also be dismissed during the season. The Chicago Blackhawks, that's another coach that's going to be dismissed this year in Jeremy Colleton. And then the Coyotes, I'm going to predict they blow it up like the Chicago Cubs did in baseball this year. And they're going to trade a bunch of guys. Phil Kessel. Maybe Phil Kessel will be back on the Penguins. Let's go with that. Because Pittsburgh always acquires a big name every year. Nick Schmaltz, I could see him ending up maybe on the Preds or something like that. But I think the Preds can go with the bigger name than that. Let's say Nick Schmaltz ends up on the Rangers. Clayton Keller they'll keep. Christian Fisher they'll keep. And then Shane Gothisbeer, I think, gets dealt too. And I think he ends up on the Edmonton Oilers. The Golden Knights. My bold prediction for them is that Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone, the former Ottawa Senator and Montreal Canadian, respectively, will have a combined 60 goals. The Oilers. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl will not combine for more than 200 points. The Calgary Flames, my bold prediction for them, they're in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. My bold prediction for the Canucks is that they make it back to the postseason after a down year a year ago. My bold prediction for the Kings, I think they finally trade some of their big-name veterans. Let's get crazy. Anze Kopitar to Nashville. Dustin Brown goes to... Let's ship him to a good East team. Let's go ship him off to maybe the Capitals or something like that. Yeah, I could see Washington being a fit. And then Drew Doughty, I think, could be in play. Maybe he and Cal Peterson go to Toronto together. That's my call. Doughty and Cal Peterson to the Maple Leafs. The Seattle Kraken. I'm going to say that Philip Grubauer will finish with a goals against average under 2.7. The Anaheim Ducks. John Gibson gets traded. Maybe the Hurricanes. Maybe the Penguins. Maybe Toronto. We'll see. But I could see him potentially going to Philly if things don't work out for Carter Hart. I could see the Ducks flipping him for Carter Hart and like a change of scenery kind of a deal for both guys potentially. But I think that John Gibson will end up somewhere completely unexpected. Maybe it's Philadelphia. Maybe it's the Bruins. I could see that. So we'll see. But I think John Gibson ends up somewhere where we don't expect. That's my prediction. And then the San Jose Sharks, I'm going to say that they trade Evander Kane to a contender for less than 40 cents on the dollar. I'm going to say that Evander Kane gets traded to I could see him going to... Where could I see Evander Kane going? I could still see him going in conference. Maybe... I could see that being a Predator. I could see him going to Nashville, but I don't think it's going to be there. Let's go in division. Let's get a little nuts. Let's say he goes to Vancouver. I could see that. Vancouver trying to go for it a little bit there. And then Ewing theory candidates, guys that obviously have either left as a free agent or a trade or retired or guys that are injured. To me, the one that still sticks out for several years ago now, and it couldn't be more true, is John Tavares with the Islanders. They've been in the conference finals twice since he left. And the Maple Leafs haven't made it out of the first round since he got there. But maybe Carolina with Nedeljkovic. I know Rangers Lundqvist still lingers too. Just like the Islanders with Tavares. This is so hard picking like the Ewing theory guys. Carolina Dougie Hamilton is a good one. Columbus with Seth Jones, potentially. The Coyotes without Darcy Kemper would be crazy. The Blues without Jaden Schwartz. There's some other ones that stick out as well, especially from a goalie standpoint. Boston without Tuukka Rask is the one that I'm most interested in seeing, obviously, for so many different reasons. I mean, Montreal without Carey Price, Montreal without Shea Weber. So there's a couple. Sharks without Evander Kane. So you can go on and on and on about this. Even ones that date over a year now with like Lundqvist and Tavares, like I mentioned earlier. So there you have it for the season prediction. So I know I went long. I went over an hour and a half, which is whatever. And let's see how I do with these predictions.